welcome to Eminence TV Live, our weekly rundown of competitive news and interviews. I'm your co-host, Ashani, aka Jamaican Dude. As always, I'm joined by the legendary, my handsome other half, Scoots. How are you, Scoots?
Great, buddy. How are you?
We're struggling. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the Epic Store, without whom this would be so amazing.
Without whom this wouldn't be so amazing.
Oh my God, that's what I said, Scott. If you're enjoying Eminence content and would like to see more, please consider subscribing here on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to one channel a month for free. We'd love if you consider using that on us. The Eminence Marketplace is not live. At eminencemarketplace.com, eminencemarket.com, one word. There you will find our latest merch, like our super cool playmat. Scott, show them the playmat.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, Sean. I'd really love to do that.
Alrighty.
Playmat.
Alrighty. Scott did the same.
Did I do it? Okay.
You did it. Alright. You can join our membership tier and our loyalty program, even Commander Tavern. You can do all this from eminencemarket.com. Single player is now live on the Command Tower on version 1.peace.
Excellent. Are you done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I get to tell you about some other things, which is that EDH.events is in beta right now, but aims to catalog all CEDH and EDH events tied to the Command Tower software, obviously the preeminent MTG tournament organization software. Why go anywhere else? Part of Command Tower and EDH.events are Eminence profiles, which are competitive player profiles, list your wins and losses and ratios, etc. based on any event you have participated in that was run through the Command Tower software. Now, the important thing about that is that with 1v1 Live, you can now even more tell your friends, scoreboard, skill issue, because that's what we're here for. I also get to tell you about some upcoming Eminence dates and info. One of the things that I really like to talk about is Cash Cards Unlimited 2, June 3rd and 4th in Los Angeles, California. Still trying to figure out a way to make Cassius Marsh fly me out there. It's not going to happen, but a man can dream. The cookout is July 29th through the 30th. That is going to be amazing. We're all going to Waffle House. There is no debating. Windmill Slam, September. Also, the RE all going to Waffle House. I'm not allowed to leak this, but the playmats are amazing. Windmill Slam, September 29th through October 1st in San Jose, California. I've been billing it as our return to the West Coast, but instead, Cash Cards Unlimited was like, no, you return to the West Coast in June. And so, it is a return to the West Coast, a return to the Bay Area, September 29th through October 1st, San Jose, California. And another thing that I get to tell you about that I'm very excited about is Mox Masters is back, baby! I think May's already sold out, but, June, July, down the road, moxmasters.events. The last thing I get to tell you about is that EDH Top 16 is live right now. So if you want empirical, data-driven statistics of what decks are good and what decks should go away and never come back, you can go to edhtop16.com. And if you go there, you'll realize that you probably should have been playing Thrasios Bruce or Tivit all along. Sean, we have an amazing guest today. Reunited, and it feels so good. A former collaborator at Who Brewed This? It is the Kirby, the Commander Tavern. How are you?
I'm doing good, y'all. Thanks for that mighty intro. It's always good to collab with some familiar faces.
Definitely good to have you on the show as part of our kind of month to 6 weeks of talking to some content creators that don't normally get onto podcasts and that kind of thing, where we are highlighting other areas of the other content creators and other areas of the community. So it's super cool of you to message and ask about joining. It's so cool to have you. Tonight we are talking about a thing that is near and dear to Kirby's heart, but I don't really have much experience with, and so thankfully, everyone, I'm going to be pretty quiet this stream. It is Commander Cube, of which you happen to curate one, Kirby.
Yes, that is correct. So I'm glad to be on. Almost, I saw the tweet where you said, "Oh, any content creators looking to join?" I windmill slammed that DM. So yeah, I've been curating this cube for a number of years. When I scoured the web, looking for info on tips and techniques on how to make one, I couldn't find any. So I decided to make some of my own, fill that niche in case anybody else was looking for it. And this was actually before Commander Legends, the first draftable Commander set, came out. So obviously after that set came out, it gave me more ideas on how to improve the draft environment. So it's been, tinkering with it forever. I can't say it's complete. I can't say I know all the ins and outs, but I'm fairly confident I can say I got 90% of it, mastered.
Awesome. I'm looking at your Commander Cube right now, and I have a few logistical questions for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Are these there are creatures in here with companion, at least Karuga the Macro Sage so far. Do you allow companions, or is that a drafted legendary?
Well, good question. Everything you see in the cube, because there is like a description more or less on how to physically draft it. Because at least Cube Cobra does all the drafting mechanics for you.
Yeah.
But the goal of the cube, and I'll answer your question in a moment, so it makes sense. The goal of the cube is to build a bona fide commander deck, right? So you have your commander or partner commanders, and you have your bulk, and it follows color identity. It follows the 100 card singleton rule. So you basically have a bona fide commander deck. But obviously, as you know, in any limited environment, you'll be left over with some cards, which is like your sideboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you pick the companion. You can either have the companion in your 99, you can have the companion as your commander because it is a legendary creature, or if your companion is in your sideboard and you meet the requirements for the companion, you can choose it as your companion at the beginning of the game, just like you would any other Magic game.
That's cool. I'm looking at your list of legendaries, and A plus. I am super digging the list of legendaries that you have selected. Among them, favorites such as Gigantha, Saskia, Sean's favorite Narset. Also, Marisi, Breaker of the Coil. That's a fun card. This cube looks really great. How big is it?
Thanks. So this cube is, believe it or not, 1,080 cards.
1,080 cards. And this is the cube that you bring to play in person.
Yes, that is correct. I had bought helped crowdfund the Kickstarter for the Potamajig, which is something the people at Cardamajigs make, just for me to be able to move the cube around. So I made an unboxing video for it where I show physically how it looks like, because it's a behemoth. Like, all the cards that are drafted fit in that big box from the Potamajig, but then I have a separate box, for all the basic lands.
Yeah.
I have other cards for like the other like placeholder cards for the double face cards, or dungeons, so that everyone has dungeons, day-night cards, monarch tokens, or initiative tokens and all that, plus copies of the Prismatic Piper. So it's not just the 1,080 cards of the cube, but all the supplementary cards that go with it.
Yeah.
I help around that too, with obviously dry erase tokens, because it's a nightmare, the cards. Imagine keeping track of all the tokens as well. Just draw your tokens.
Yeah, that'd be brutal. Draw them with a marker.
Yeah.
An interesting thing that I see that you have are heroes and conspiracies in your
Yes.
deck. So tell me a little bit about how you integrate those into gameplay.
Yeah, sure. So when I first built this, one of the goals was to try and have an environment where everyone's on the same power level by default because everyone's drafting from the same pool. So I decided to try and add as many fun things that people don't normally play with just to entice drafting with these cards. So conspiracies, which are obviously banned in Commander, since this is a draft set, it's easier to do so. So if you were to draft a conspiracy, even though we're playing Commander, it would still work just like in a draft environment. Any conspiracies you draft that you choose to use would begin the game in your command zone, either face down or face up, and you would treat them as normal. If you want to reveal the card, you reveal it face up with the name you chose, like hidden at the beginning of the game. So the way conspiracy would work, they would work. But in this particular sense, they do not count towards your deck size, just like if you would in a limited environment.
Mhm.
So you would have your 40 card deck if you were drafting conspiracy, and then you have your conspiracies, which don't count towards your 40 card deck.
Okay.
So here, let's say you drafted 5 conspiracies, you would still have your 100 card deck with your 5 conspiracies in the command zone.
Okay.
And then the heroes are similar. Heroes work just the same as if you were playing any challenge deck. If you draft any heroes, they begin face up on the battlefield, and you still have your 100 card commander deck.
Do people fight over Richard Garfield, PhD?
Oh, Richard Garfield PhD is the nuts in this queue because since you can use chaff for it, any 0 drop is automatically a mox, any 1 and a blue is time walk. So, but you do have to be lucky and pick it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. So tell me a little bit about playing Commander Cube in paper. It seems like a pretty wild environment. You have a nice set of rules written up on the Cube Cobra page, but can you just, for people who aren't on that page right now, can you tell us a little bit about like the draft process and the deck design phases?
So in order to facilitate things, at first it was a bit difficult, but I was able to hone it down, like I mentioned, thanks to Commander Legends. So at the very beginning, players get their 5 packs, and along with their 5 packs, they will get 2 copies of the Prismatic Piper and 2 copies of Faceless One, just like you would if you were playing whichever Commander Legends draft.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 5 booster packs, the first 4, they are seeded in such a way where each of those 20 card packs have 2 potential commanders, which are at random, and then either 3 of any single colored card, or 3 colorless cards, or 3 multicolored cards. So, for example, you might open a pack, you have 2 potential commanders, and you have 3 mono green cards, 3 mono blue cards, etc. And then either 3 colorless color identity or 3 multicolored color identity. That way, since Commander is dependent on color identity, if you're pulling for your colors, it's not imbalanced. So you don't have a lopsidedness of maybe by luck or probability there are more blue cards than red cards, and then the red player doesn't have any red cards to pick from. So everyone has the same probabilities in terms of color. So you just open your pack like normal, you have your 20 cards, you pick 2, you pass it, you receive the next one, you pick 2, you pass it. Sometimes you might be lucky and you might see a commander you really like in the first pack and you pick that one. Maybe you'll pick it in your 3rd pack. Maybe in the 2nd round of drafting, you might change your mind because you got a better commander, which is albeit a bit risky, right? Because you are trying to pick spells for your colors. But then anything that you pick that you end up not putting in your deck just goes to the sideboard anyways. And then the 5th pack is only mana fixing lands. That's why if you notice in the cube, even if you're not looking at the description, you'll notice that all of the potential commanders are the first cards you see. Then you see all the white cards, blue cards, etc., colorless, multicolored. And then the very last thing you see are the mana fixing lands. The way I made those tags in Cube Cobra so that if anyone just looks at it without really knowing how the website works, you can see exactly what are the mana fixing lands. They're lands that are either just fetching or mana. They don't have any abilities.
Yeah, the vivid lands, the thriving lands,
Yeah,
those kinds of.
yeah. So any lands that do provide abilities, they're in the bulk, which I like to call. For example, Kessig Wolfrun is in my cube considered a multicolored card because it is, yes, it is a land, but it has an ability. So you're not
Mhm.
going to find any abilities on the mana fixing lands. Obviously, this is a bit on the budget. You notice no fetch lands or anything like
Yeah.
that because when you're hawking around 1,080 cards, you sometimes you want to keep an eye out. You know, if you played like in a store and you're trying to keep everything together. So, but the
Yeah.
online version does have all the dual lands, fetches, and all
Mhm.
that. But it's fine because it's more casual in terms of you're always gonna find the lands you want. And unfortunately, WotC still hasn't completed a lot of land mega cycles.
Yeah.
So if I do want it balanced and not lopsided in favor of shards or ally colors,
Mhm.
then I can't put, for example, the Tango lands because the enemy Tango lands haven't been printed yet.
Yeah.
All of the Horizon lands haven't been printed yet, etc.
Yeah.
Same with the layers. So of the ones, the cycles that are complete, well, the I have enough where 8 people can draft because that would mean 160 lands that
Yeah.
have to be balanced,
Yeah.
which is quite a lot.
So, when you when you're drafting this cube, what do you find the average land count to kind of be in the created decks?
Usually, players go between 35 and 38 because you can fill the rest of the slots with basics.
Mhm.
Uh, the curve, if you look at the data for the curve,
Ooh.
if you take out the lands from the curve, you'll notice that it is a pretty nice curve. So, for example, you can build a deck low to the ground if you're able to draft the cards. You can build a mid-range deck. On average, honestly, most of the decks tend to be mid-range because if you prioritize color above strategy and all that. But I have seen some decks that can be really aggro, can be really control-y because if you
Mhm.
look at the cards, lots of archetypes are supported. So
Mhm.
that is a way you can see that. But like I said, if I go to the chart, I can do that later. You can see in analysis tab, literally where it says chart, there's a huge column for 0 because it counts the land.
Yeah.
But if you ignore that column, you can see that it has almost a perfect bell curve, which also took a while to curate to have that
Yeah.
sweet spot up.
A very
Yeah,
even chart of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so at least when you're drafting, usually players either if they see a lot of cards for an archetype, they can go for that. They can choose a commander they like, or at the same time, just an absolute mess or a clusterfuck of I just picked these cards that I liked, the same colors, staple a deck together, and they might win the match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything is possible.
That's really cool. Um Aside from the logistical parts of Commander Cube, I have to imagine that a huge part of wanting to make a Commander Cube is the love of Commander and the cards that you've put in the cube. So,
Yeah.
can you kind of walk us through your design process? Like, where did this start, and how has it come to this 1,000 card monolith?
All right. So, like I mentioned at the very beginning, in Puerto Rico, I was playing with a group, and some of them were not starting out in the sense that they didn't know how to play, but they didn't have like really powerful decks, and I had been
Yeah.
playing for a while. So my decks, even though they could have been like closer to a 7 or a 6, they might still not have it as good as an experience. So I figured, hey, I have a whole bunch of bulk. Let me just take all these commanders that I have in my binder, all this bulk that I have lying around, and build the first version. When I
Hmm.
drafted that, it worked so well that I figured, maybe this is worth, actually focusing my time into and not just slapping a whole
Yeah.
bunch of cards together. So the version that you see here, there's usually a lot of swaps that I make for new cards when I see that some older cards aren't performing. For example, I love the battle cards, so I
Hmm.
try to
Yeah.
do my
Yeah,
best to
they're really
find
cool.
slots for all 11 of them. So it's as I go along, but to help those who are figuring about starting it, honestly, just start with what you have is what I can suggest because
Hmm.
sometimes you might like cards, but they don't really fit into any deck you have because Commander being a 100 card singleton, even if you have the card in your deck, sometimes you've played the deck 10 times and you've never drawn the card that you really like from it.
Yeah.
So, like, if you start with from what you want and keeping in mind what you have in mind. For example, you can maybe do it brawl where you build 60 card decks if you don't want to have as many cards.
Oh, that's
You can
cool.
do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you can do it for 4 players or 1v1 dual commander. So you first start with what you want in terms of playing and time,
Hmm.
because drafting 100 cards is significant.
Takes a long time. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's.
when I'm drafting with just 4 players, because that way you're basically by that point already seeing the same pack multiple times passed
Mhm.
around. And even with 4 players, it's an average of maybe like an hour 20 minutes
Yeah.
to draft it. And
Mm-mm.
then you build the decks. But at least the good thing is that building the decks doesn't take that much time because you are drafting more or less in your colors.
Hmm.
So those are like all little considerations, which also boils down to the fundamentals of cube design as well. Like
Okay.
what archetypes do you want in your cube? Like how fast do you want the games to be? What cards to put in? But in terms of commander, always start with for me the commanders and your pet cards, and then from there, all decks need interaction, all decks need mana acceleration, all decks need removal.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you don't have to add, for example, force of vigor. Like
Right.
I have this ambush viper, which for all effects and purposes is a green creature removal. For 1 and 1
Hmm.
green, you flash it in, you block something with death touch, and you kill it, right? So there are ways to get around, the weaknesses, so to speak, of colors. So that's how I would recommend you start. Commanders you really like, all your pet cards that you 100% want in your cube, and then you can fill in the blanks with after that if you want 60 cards to be built, if you're going to back it with 4 players, 8
Hmm.
players. Because mine is
Oh,
1,080 cards because you never draft the whole thing at once.
oh man, there's
But,
some. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sir.
Sean, what was that noise?
Oh
You
man,
okay?
I was looking at it. I'm sorry, I got excited over a card. Grave Betrayal and Butcher of Malkare. I'm like, those were some cards I used to play with back in the day. That
You're,
was
you're such a
Yeah,
brought
Timmy.
exactly.
brought me
That
back
nowadays no one
memories.
puts in their decks. Exactly. That's the
Exactly.
goal. Like
Yep.
my goal
Yep.
is for the longer the draft lasts, some people might find that tedious, but I enjoy it because that means that players are looking at cards that they've either never seen before, or
Yep.
it's like, oh, it's been such a long time since I played this. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I want to make the draft itself exciting. That's why you're gonna see a lot of cards that say reveal this card as you drafted,
Hmm.
or note how many cards you picked before you draft this.
Hmm.
Because drafting can sometimes be a chore, but I like to put a lot of cards that make it exciting. A lot of
Yeah,
wish
keep it
effects, a lot of things.
active. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then the deck building usually is anywhere between half an hour to 40 minutes, and then whatever long the games would last, which is not that long because the cube is, as you saw, is quite balanced in terms of curve, in terms of
Mhm.
components.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious. It's a very long card list, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, are there right off the top of your head? Did you hide any game-ending combos in this?
There used to be a lot of tutors in the
Okay.
cube of all types because sometimes if there was a really good combo or a card you wanted, you might never see again ever. Even if you played a couple of rounds, or even if I stored the decks so that we could just play with the same decks the next time we met together.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there are some combos in the sense of, off the top of my head, I can't really remember any, but there is channel in there. So obviously, any X burn spell with channel is immediate GGs. Oh
Nice.
yeah, exactly. Channel with I think there is Jaya's Immolating
Is there?
Inferno.
Yeah,
So
Inferno or Fireball. Yeah.
you deal X damage to each of 3 targets. So if you drafted Channel, the moment you have more life than the table, just empty Channel into Jaya's Immolating Inferno and you win.
That's so fun. I love
So
that.
old school combos, yeah, things you can do in normal
Oh,
Commander because Channel is banned.
fast bond.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a very cool cube. So, which brings me to ask this question: where's the next place you're bringing this?
I was going to try and bring this to CubeCon this
Mm-hmm.
October, but
Yeah, CubeCon.
that yeah, that weekend getting married in Florida, so I couldn't go to CubeCon.
Well, I guess
Oh.
yeah, you kind of gotta skip that, huh?
Yeah, it
Postpone the
happens.
wedding. Postpone the
Yeah.
wedding.
CubeCon
Yeah.
CubeCon is being hosted in part by Adam, isn't it? Manivalt, Milwaukee. CubeCon's in Milwaukee this year.
I think it's in Minnesota. I think it is.
Minnesota. Okay, I thought it was Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not. I don't really remember. I
yeah.
know I got bummed because of the date, and then I just try and not increase my depression by looking at any other announcements. But
Smart.
I am gonna try and take it with me to future Command Fest. I'm gonna see what Command Fests are happening after October, because I do have a lot of travel expenses for like the wedding stuff and all that.
Yeah.
So can't really travel that much. But afterwards, I'm definitely bringing it to future Command Fests.
Excellent.
Hopefully, I don't get stopped by TSA. You know what I mean? I'm bringing like a huge block of C4 basically.
So yeah, I mean, I've definitely spent a lot of time in secondary inspection when I had magic cards with me. I'll tell you that much. They also don't like
Yeah.
your silica packets that you put in there to keep everything from bending.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're gonna MacGyver an explosive
Into
apparently
the little packet. Yeah, absolutely. Sean, you
Yeah,
still
but at
give
least.
On my
Sorry, go ahead.
Feast of Revelation. Oh, these are some
Oh,
sweet
yeah.
cards.
Yeah, I'm just excited seeing his reaction to the cards in the cube, because that's usually how it is when I'm drafting.
It's
like, oh, you
nice,
got
yeah.
this? Yep, I sure do.
Oh man, Steve's Rhino, take this card out. Hit it. Already hit it.
Oh, Sean.
Yeah, because if you notice, everything is also balanced in color. Like they're the same
Yeah.
amount of blue-white cards. You're gonna see black-green cards. Same with the 3-color. Only 4 colored cards, obviously, are the Nephilim. There's like only 5 colored cards. But since there are wish effects, you can quote unquote play outside of your colors, because
Yeah.
while wishes don't work in constructed Commander, for all effects and purposes, they do work in limited Commander, because it is inevitable for you to end up with a sideboard after drafting.
Mhm.
So a sideboard does exist to your deck.
So-
Ring of Maru, will the wishes work?
Oh, that's cool. So we can get to do wishes in Cube.
Yep.
I should have
Very
told me
true.
that from the start.
We got some. Do we gotta? I gotta look. Do we have a Karn in this beautiful thing?
I did have a Karn, but I took it out recently because I needed it for a deck. But
I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, but at least since most of the artifacts are colorless, you don't really need Karn in the cube, I figured. So
I love Karn boarding though. Oh my goodness.
he wasn't missed. But yeah, you can see there's a lot of
was
wish effects in all
not.
colors and everything.
Where is the Karn and liquid metal coating combo? Come on.
Oh, liquid metal coating was in here.
Yeah.
As a good the torque, liquid metal torque was in here as well.
Yeah.
But every now and again I make changes, because sometimes I'm playing it and then I was like, oh, this card, we haven't seen it, or it's not really picked that often, so I cut it out.
I've been playing Ponza on the historic ladder on MTG Arena with Karn and liquid metal coatings. So I
absolutely busted.
It's a good time. It's a really good time.
Oh man.
There's some spicy stuff in here. You can
There's
see
so much.
Primordial, Prime Time, Prophet of Krufix.
Where's the? Do we have a Grizz? Do we have a Grizz? No.
There's Nerf War.
No, we don't have Gristlebrand. Unfortunate.
Oh, Gristlebrand used to be in here, but I preferred putting Tergrid in. So Tergrid's in.
Tergrid is really cool.
Because there's a lot of sacrifice effects in it, so I figured Tergrid and Gisa would be good. But Grizz was in here for sure. He was even Eladamri was in here too.
Mm-hmm.
But I put Kodama in for balance reasons, because that way there's like more partner possibilities.
Yeah.
Plus, Kodama's a really good card.
So the thing that strikes me about this, and the question that it gives me, is if we're adding cards into this cube, what is that cutting room floor process like for you? Like, how do you pick what goes out? Yeah,
absolute torture. So the cube has a lot of overarching archetypes. There's ETB effects, so that works with the reanimation effects. It also works with the blinking effects. There's a lot of removal that is sacrificed to bypass all the protective effects. There's a lot of cloning, a lot of thievery. For example, you see that cloning and stealing is heavy in blue. So if I see a really good new card that's in blue, if I want to cut a card, I have a list of pet cards I will never cut, and I have a list of clones that are like top tier, right? So
Yeah.
unless it's a new clone that does something better than a
And the
clone
old
already
one.
cube,
Yeah.
then I cut. For example, for the battles, it was really tough, but for some of them, not so much. For example, Invasion of Zendikar, that's basically the for explosive vegetation. That's literally the card I cut for Invasion of Zendikar. So sometimes the cuts are easy, other times they're really hard. Like finding a cut is impossible. It has to be a card that is either super fun or does something really unique, or replaces a card for better. It's a absolute.
A thing that I noticed that you have done a very good job of is you have managed to keep the commander theft type effects or commander denial type effects kind of out of it. I don't see Draenith Magistrate. I don't see like Mind Flayer, Gilded Drake, Hostage Taker, those kind of effects.
Yeah, there was a time where there was a lot of stacks effects. Stacks was one of the archetypes in the cube. And while players don't really matter because it's really hard to make a pure stacks effect, once more time passed, it's like within the span of a year, I think I took stacks out. That helped me also put in other types of cards in the cube. So those kinds of effects, I took them out because then it made it easier for me to make cuts. So some archetypes have gone in favor of improving others and also the overall experience. For example, not every banned card is in here. Like I mentioned, the one where players can't have more than 5 lands, that's not in here. Because so even if you don't play around it, just someone casting it as a troll ruins the experience. So that's not in there.
Yeah, that's
but you
fair.
do see, for example, the one where you have life equal to the number of creatures, bio, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It's in there. Biorhythm, it's in there.
Biorhythm, yep.
Yeah. So there are some things that I try to steer clear from, because you can steal cards and it doesn't feel as bad because they're not yours.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of people hate their cards being played with because it's someone else touching, your expensive cardboard rectangles. But here it doesn't really matter. And most of the thievery effects are exchanged, like exchange control of this for that.
Yeah.
Or, things like that aren't that bad. Or people drawing cards off of someone else's deck using the silver bordered cards that do stuff like that. So it's sort of like a fun way of taking people's things without being too hardcore of, oh, you couldn't cast your commander, or your commander got changed into a indestructible insect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is still removal, like counter spells aplenty, exile effects, sacrifice effects, board wipes.
Curse of the Swine, Ham Nation.
Yep. You know it.
Sean, what were you saying? I think your microphone is muted.
Oh, I was saying, I was looking for the Obliterate and the Ravages of War, and like, well, I mean, I still like it though, because you get
Sean, who hurt you?
Everyone gets to play their cute cards. Yes.
I mean, we got balancing act in here.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, there is balance. There's balancing act. There is upheaval. That'll get rid of some lands for you.
Yeah,
if you're looking for that.
I am looking for that card.
That's who you are.
Yeah, because you asked me about combos. Nothing better than upheaval followed by a windfall. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Beautiful.
There you go. There you go.
Do that in IQ as well if we want those Ravages of War type effects.
Yeah. There you go. That is woof. Yeah, that's a combo for sure. I'm taking a look at the list and kind of, I don't want to really ask particularly granular questions about this list. So what I will ask is, if somebody wants to design their own cube, what kind of tenets would you like? Earlier you mentioned that people should figure out like what they want their cube to be, and then build it based on that. But do you have any general best practices as
Oh yeah,
far
of
as
course.
what cards go in and out?
Yeah, like tips and things like that.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing it on a budget, obviously cheap things, Cultivate, Kadama's Reach, things like that. But don't just limit yourself to green.
Hmm.
If you're trying to really make the cube balanced, for example, you see that it is possible my cube to have single colored commanders and things like that.
Yeah.
Try and keep it all balanced. For example, in black, I still have cards that provide mana acceleration.
Hmm.
It's just the type of mana acceleration found on certain black cards. Same with certain blue cards. Like you can have blue cards that give mana, like Dreamscape Artist, Iceberg. Obviously, they're not as good as green, but they're still there. So when you are building your cube, you have to think, okay, let's say your cube is going to be, I don't know, 500 cards. You're essentially building a 500 card commander deck.
Hmm.
So you do want to have the same deck building principles as you would for any commander deck, regardless if it's CDH, high power, jank, optimized, casual, right?
Yeah.
You still need to have ways for the deck to draw cards, to interact with other players, and things like that. Like, sure,
Yeah.
if you want to make it battle cruiser, that's fine, right? I'm not going to tell you, oh, you have to put Chaos Warp, you have to put Counterspell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that is what you have to keep in mind. You, as a curator, if you're curating it as an experience for like-minded people, then how would you build the deck, and how would your players enjoy that deck building process?
Mm.
If you want it a bit more broad, then try and keep it in the spectrum of, okay, there has to be interaction, there has to be, card advantage, but always follow your own deck building philosophy, because though at the end of the day, those are the games you're playing with the cards you're building. That's why you see a lot of ideas that I really enjoy as a deck builder. You see them in the cube. So in a sense, since I can play with any commander that I like, it doesn't matter if I drafted, I don't know, blue red. I can still
Hmm.
play that blue red. Or if I drafted green white, I can still play whatever green white deck I have. So
Yeah.
you have to think also as your player. Different players like different things, and if they have the enjoyment of drafting certain cards, perfect. But always try and make it like you. Your commander cube is, like I said, whatever number of cards you got. You got to imagine you're building a commander deck of that size, and start from there.
That's a really cool way to look at it, I think. I also liked what you said about asking, like, basically understanding what the players that are going to play it are going to
Yeah.
want to play. And speaking of the players who are going to play it, I think it's not everybody who is down to draft Commander Cube. So personally, how do you go about recruiting people to play with you? And how often do you play?
When I was this was like, it's already been almost 2 years.
Hmm.
So in Puerto Rico, we would draft this maybe for like 3 years. We would draft it on and off, but it would be in a sense where, all right, no one's building any new decks. You want to try something fresh? All right, let's draft.
Nice.
So it's not every time, like maybe once every 3 months, because at the same time it also gives me time to keep building on it.
Hmm.
Now that it's at a point where all I do is maybe make 2 or 3 cuts per set, depending on what happens, because I love the dungeon mechanic. So that made me cut a whole bunch of cards,
Yeah.
and then when Baldur's Gate came out, same for Initiative. But it's at a point now where I'm really satisfied with it. Currently, the play group I have where I am local now, we've already drafted it once. We're gonna draft it again. Curiously, we're gonna draft it again this week. Um, so it's the same. Like, once a new set comes out, there's a hype of new cards. Everybody's building new decks.
Hmm.
But after there's like a lull, it's like, oh, how about we draft the cube to sort of spice things up, so to speak,
Yeah.
right? And then we draft it because we need a lot of time. Like, you can sit and play a game maybe an hour and a half, or sometimes 2 hours. That's how long it might take to draft the cube and build your decks.
Yeah.
So you're basically sacrificing a game and a half, but at the same time you have decks that we can play 2 or 3 games back to back, and it's still going to be fresh because it's a deck you built on the spot out
Mm-hmm.
of cards you drafted. So it's definitely not an experience for like every single week, unless your thing is cube. Then obviously, people cube religiously. But if it's not your thing, like maybe once every 2 months or so, you can have a day dedicated to it. And sometimes if I do keep the decks that were built, I can bring them with me and say, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
we built these decks a couple of weeks ago. Remember? Let's play it one more time before I pull them apart and reassemble the cube to get it ready." So it's definitely it's not for like an everyday thing, but every once in a while
Mm-hmm.
it's a fun thing to do because you will never have the same experience. Like I mentioned, it's 1,080 cards, so 8 players can draft it, and there are still cards left in the pool
Yeah.
where you will see them. Like you might see them if you do booster tutor and summon the pack and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or if you're drafting extra packs because of a card that lets you do that. So they're there for extra reasons, just in case. But at the same time, you're not drafting every pack, every card.
Yeah.
So we can like draft it now. I can break it apart, shuffle it back up together, prepare it again, and you will not have the same draft
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think the burning question that everybody who's listening has is what is it sleeved in?
So the original version had every single loose sleeve I had, regardless if it was red, blue,
Mm-hmm.
teal, green, purple, black, yellow, because no one knew what it was anyways. You
Yeah.
could have a deck with like it looked like a bag of Skittles. It doesn't matter because you
Yeah.
don't know what the cards are. But I invested in a whole case of black matte Dragon Shield
Okay.
for it. So they're all sleeved in the same type of sleeve, Dragon Shield. Same with all my decks. I'm like, I might as well go ham and just buy as many boxes
Yeah.
as I can, because the basic lands also require sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably like 50 of every basic sleeved up and ready to go as well.
Yeah.
Plus a couple of extra sleeves, and just in case people need more basics. So I have like 50 of each basic sleeved,
Mm-hmm.
like 50 more unsleeved, and like 30 loose sleeves with the basics, just in case I need more
In case
basics. So
someone
yeah,
goes monocolored or something.
yeah. So it's quite a couple of sleeves.
Yeah, that's really cool. If anybody at Dragon Shield or Ultra Pro or another sleeve manufacturer is listening right now, a really good opportunity to get your stuff out there in front of eyes is sending 1,000+ sleeves to Kirby here. So
Oh yeah, much
yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could just send 1,000+ sleeves to Kirby here, that would be super great. Kirby, I was thinking earlier you mentioned your token issue, and I just wanted to highlight one extra special thing that our sponsor, the Epic Storm, has, which are these token packs that come with
Nice.
game objects and then mana counters, and there's like birds and goblins and triggers and constructs and squirrels and thopters and everything. So if you're interested in
that's
some
really useful.
tokens, you could go to, I think it's MTG, or it's the epicstorm.com/shop, I think. So it's like $15 for a brick of them.
Oh, yeah, the
Oh
small
wow.
bundle. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's pretty good deal, and it's a lot of good tokens. And I am required to MTG the Epic Storm in the chat saying, "Wow, those tokens sound really sweet." They are indeed really sweet. Yeah. All right, so I guess this is the point of the show where I ask you, is there anything you feel that we have missed regarding Commander Cube that you would like to highlight before we move into the lightning round?
No, I think we covered everything. It's a very personal experience. A lot of people might feel overwhelmed.
Mhm.
But the reason I made it is to play Commander. So you can have a cube to play Modern with, or just basic jank. But
Mhm.
really, honestly, it might sound like I'm giving the most half-assed, obvious answer of all time. But like for me, the basics is what kind of Commander game do you want, and then
Yeah.
build your cube around that. So I think we covered all the bases.
Excellent.
Oh,
All right, Kirby, we are about to enter the lightning round, and it's actually like it's pretty small. Number one, again, who are you? Where can people find you on the internet? Is question number one.
All right, awesome. So I am a Demented Kirby, the one and only member of the Commander Tavern, which you can find on YouTube. I'll put the link in the chat for anyone interested. You can find me there. You can find me on my Discord, but all my links are in my YouTube channel. So you can find my Twitter
Excellent.
there, my Discord server, which is free for anyone who wants to join. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And what I'm about, I make any kind of Commander content I've had. I usually stick to the either optimized, higher power, but also casual type building. But I have also had my foray in the CDH.
Yeah.
I've collaborated with Mons from CDH TV, with yourself, obviously with Cicada.
Yeah.
I've also collaborated with Split Second. So I'm down to clown for anything, honestly. All things Commander. I like strategies, deck text, card analysis, you name it.
Excellent. Moving forward, is there anything coming out on your channel that you're super excited to talk about?
Well, for now, I'm super pumped with my Commander Cube miniseries. It will possibly conclude soon. I think I've covered almost every facet there is to talk about it for now. Let's see what Commander Masters brings. Fingers crossed it's a single card that does the same thing as Prismatic Piper and Faceless one, but let's see. But other than that, right now, I think the most exciting thing I've done this week is join you guys. So I guess that's 2 birds with 1 stone for everybody listening.
That's much appreciated. I've had a great time myself. So yeah, super happy to have you. And then is there anything that isn't Magic that you're excited about in the near future?
I like a lot of movies and music and all that, so I'm pretty pumped for the new Marvel movies that have been coming out. I saw the new Evil Dead movie that came out this weekend. That was pretty cool. Gonna see a couple of concerts. I'm gonna see the Paramore concert, which is always cool. So yeah, anything gaming, movies, music, I'm all down for that.
Wow, Paramore concert. I bet you, God, it just feels so good. Anyhow, the final question I have for you, the most important question I have for you, out of every question that I will have asked you tonight is, Kirby, what's the sexiest soup?
I'm gonna go with clam chowder, because you know what we use the oysters for.
You know what? I normally don't ask, and I'm not going to this time. Great answer, clam chowder, oysters for later. Everybody have, oh geez. MTG the Epic Storm is trying to get in one question at the wire, and so I will ask it, out of obligation. Kirby, what do you think as far as tiers, Thrasios and Tymna is on the CEDH scale?
Well, being as it has recently not won against mono red decks, mono green decks, mono brown decks like the Ursithopter, I'm gonna say just slightly under.
That's not a deck. Oh my god. Not
No, letter grade, Kirby. Letter grade. I need something to clip.
No, A+.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Take that, Bryant.
I'm just trolling here. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, from everyone here at what's the name of this broadcast? Eminence TV Live. There it is. For everyone here at Eminence TV Live and Eminence TCG, overarchingly, it's been so fun to have you all here in the chat and hanging out with Kirby. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time, same channel. Thank you so much. And we're out.